Well, good morning, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us today. We're really delighted to have you with us, and we have a great in this panel today. We've got a couple of really amazing sessions, and we're really delighted to be working, as always, with ECEDHA. Our groups have a really long history of working together to serve the engineering community, serve the university community, and our future engineers. So it gives me great pleasure to start off what I expect to be an outstanding discussion about our two organizations and how we can continue to grow and enhance opportunities for education, engineering education, for learning and around the university community and for our students. ECEDHA and HKN missions are pretty much alike. We both serve the engineering community, the same community of people, and we both are looking toward how do we enhance education for the development of our students, as well as our universities. So it gives me great pleasure to bring along in the opening conversation with me, Ashfaq Kolkar, who's the president of ECEDHA this year, and he's also the department chair of electrical and computer engineering at Iowa State University, which is our new chapter, which is an excellent chapter. So good morning, Ashfaq. Do you want to make some opening remarks as we welcome the rest of the panel and the day?
Sure. First of all, thank you very much for inviting us, and I think it's an outstanding platform for all of us to come together and share our experiences. And HCAN, IEEE-HKN, ECEDHA, it's a long history of relationship and some very good, very good programs that have come out of it. And I have always enjoyed interactions with the organization and with the student representatives, and look forward to having a very healthy discussion. And welcome to all who are participating in this panel. And as the day progresses, we'll see several very energetic discussions. Thank you very much.
That's great. Yeah, you have a wonderful chapter at Iowa State, the new chapter. So you've got a great leader, Katie Brinker, as one of your officers there, and she'll be on later on one of our panels later this afternoon. So we're excited for Katie to come and talk about what the new chapter does.
We are running out of place for trophies.
And trophies, yeah, that's true. I know you just got another one. So the your chapter, the new chapter, just won one of your most innovative program awards from the department, the engineering community this year, for doing a virtual tour of those of the steam tunnels at Iowa State. So I know they just won a big award for that, and they're really proud of that. So they did what a lot of our chapters did. They took a COVID situation, a shutdown situation, and they found a way to still offer the same quality and level of programs to be able to really still bring the engineering community together. So you must be really proud of what they've accomplished in all years, but especially in this year. Great.
Thank you.
So sort of start off this morning, we have our first panel, which is just going to talk a little bit about the two organizations, EDHA and ECEDHA. And we're going to start off with Jim Conrad, who's the 2021 HKN president-elect, and we're also going to bring in Ziwa Q, who's the department chair at our University of Central Florida Zeta Chi chapter, also another really great chapter of EDHA. And Jim, if you want to start us off to talk about a little bit to set the stage about EDHA and what it is and what we do for anyone who may not know. And maybe answer some questions for people that know some, but maybe we'll give them a little more information about what EDHA is and does. So thanks, Jim. I'll turn it over to you.
All right.
Thank you very much. Yourself further and go into your presentation.
Thank you all for being here. And I just wanted to set the stage a little bit for what is EDHA and maybe even discuss a little bit about how it differs from an IEEE student branch. So, by the way, I am the 2021 president-elect for IEEE EDHA. Our president this year is Ron Jensen. That means next year I will be serving as the president of IEEE EDHA. Next slide. So, in a nutshell, IEEE historically was the Electrical Engineering Honor Society. And by the way, there's some noise in the background. Can we make sure that everybody is muted? That would be really helpful. Thank you. So the the merger of IEEE and and Eta Kappa Nu occurred 10 years ago, and with its new home within IEEE, we are now the International Honor Society for all of the IEEE fields of interest. And that includes electrical engineering, computer science, and the associated fields. And so it still is an honor society. So we induct students and faculty members and professionals who uphold our tenets of the society. Now there is a membership requirement for undergraduate students. They need to have certain GPAs, and for graduate students, they actually need to be in good standing in most universities. That is a fairly decent GPA as well. We have 267 chapters worldwide, and the mission is to give back to our universities and our communities. And so service plays a very heavy part of our mission and our DNA, for lack of a better word. But we also help our Eta Kappa Nu members develop leadership skills and to carry that sense of service back into the world and community once they graduate and are no longer students. Next slide. I'm assuming Nancy is trying to get to the next slide.
I am. I wanted to go back.
All right.
Let's go back.
So by the numbers, one example. Okay. So
sorry, I went ahead 2 rather than 1, Jim. Sorry.
So this is the one ahead, I am assuming. So to give you a little example of some of the programs that we have and our branding for these is new last year was the Eta Kappa Nu experience. Because of COVID, and I'm sure all of you are quite aware of that, we wanted to identify professional development as well as technical, as well as social events for not only our Eta Kappa Nu members, but also for Eta Kappa Nu alumni. And for that, we had lots of activities, including opportunities for students to go on virtual scavenger hunts. We had some pretty big names in the field give presentations, technical presentations. But we also had leadership and other types of professional development presentations. We also have the diversity and inclusion discussion. We started that formally last year, and we'll continue it, I hope, every year from now on. We have Pathways to Industry, where we have industrial partners discuss with our students how they can transition from being a student and enter into industry, and what are all the information that they need. We also have, it's not listed here, but we also have Pathways to Academia. So we work with students to find out, is an advanced degree or maybe even working in academia part of their plans. We have alumni newsletters. We also celebrate Founders Day. Our largest conference is considered the Student Leadership Conference, which we had to take hiatus on last year because we were not allowed to be live. And that's where we draw and pull together Eta Kappa Nu students and we also invite the alumni from the area where we hold this. And again, the students are learning leadership, not just for their own chapters, but once they get out into the real world. And our probably our most well-known effort is The Bridge, our magazine for Eta Kappa Nu, all that is Eta Kappa Nu, as well as technical ideas. And in fact, it is an award-winning magazine that every year we are recognized by our peers as being one of the best magazines available for people to look at. So in community service, of course, I've mentioned that. And in fact, next slide, please. So in our last full year of the world as a normal world in 2019, our Eta Kappa Nu chapters logged 85,000, that's 1,000 man hours of community service. And community also could include a service to the academic units, which some of our speakers are going to talk about a little bit later. It was a little bit down in 2020. One of the reasons why is because obviously COVID prevented us from doing a lot of live things, but we're also, because we still are a student organization, a lot of campuses did not actually allow student organization to meet live. And so we had a lower rate of inductions last year, which we hope to turn around this year. We still had lots, and we did them all virtually, but we hope to increase that number in 2021. We also have a lot of active chapters. So as you see, 75% of the chapters are reporting everything they need to do, their service hours, inductions. And one of our missions, of course, is to make sure that all of our chapters are active. And in fact, that's where we can get your help. Next slide.
Oops, back. I got goes forward.
That's all right.
Yep.
And Stacy put a chat in there, latest issue of The Bridge. She gave you a nice link for you to get to. Is this the next slide? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, I went forward again.
Okay.
There you go.
All right, there we go. So I guess the big question is, how can Eta Kappa Nu benefit universities, your departments, as well as the general community? And so one of those that we see quite often is tutoring. And in fact, it has taken an interesting tact, and you'll find out a lot more about this later on today. In the COVID world, a lot of the tutoring has gone on virtually. They also have exam prep, course guides, and then some of the chapters also have speakers on grad school research help and lab sessions. A lot of the chapters do have the technical talks that you might see from other organizations like IEEE student branches, as well as industry visits. But one of our big pushes, of course, is leadership, because typically we find out that our honor students are natural leaders, and we want to introduce them to correct leadership styles, everything from project management to conflict management. We also encourage, and we see examples all over of STEM outreach in the general community. And that's one of the nice aspects of Eta Kappa Nu is they do a great job of introducing school children in the K through 12 grades who might not ordinarily have an opportunity to get any experience with engineering, especially electrical, computer engineering, and computer science and the associated fields. Of course, students are students, and so they do have social activities. Now, I'm mentioning the Eta Kappa Nu chapters. We also have alumni chapters, which do also have social events and do work as well. Next slide. Just as an idea of some of the activities that our Eta Kappa Nu chapters do to benefit the community, you can see the list there as well as I can. Personally, I'm a big person into Lego robots, and in fact, we'll hear other examples later. But we actually have our student groups run workshops on Saturdays and Sundays in April. And we bring in anywhere between 400 and 600 children and their parents. We actually require each child to accompany a parent to these workshops. And that way we have an opportunity for the kids and the parents to work together to build a Lego robot and then race it, or in our cases, we have sumo wrestling with Lego robots. That's always fun. Next slide. I'd like to thank you for your time and at least one final parting comment, and that is, many of you are aware that there is, of course, or there are, of course, IEEE student branches, and some of you have both IEEE Eta Kappa Nu chapters as well as IEEE student branches. Of course, there is also the IEEE sections that are local to your universities. And all of this works well if all of them talk and work together. And so probably the most common denominator of all of those is electrical and computer engineering department chairs, because very often a lot of the leadership for sections, and then of course, you know, a lot of leadership from sections come from universities. And of course, with universities having both IEEE student branches and Eta Kappa Nu student chapters, there's an excellent opportunity for them to actually work together for these service organizations, keeping in mind that there is a restriction for membership for Eta Kappa Nu. With that, thank you very much.
Well, great. Thanks, Jim, for a brief overview of Eta Kappa Nu. I know I always say Eta Kappa Nu is never given, always earned. And it comes with that invitation comes an obligation. And so that's one of the things we really want to share with you today, is a lot of how Eta Kappa Nu chapters and individuals are carrying out that obligation, that commitment to service, and how that can help you as a department chair. I often think of them as, in a lot of ways, when I talk to successful department chairs with their Eta Kappa Nu chapters, you know, they see this as an extension of their own faculty, of their own efforts. So think about your goals as a department chair and how an Eta Kappa Nu chapter and these students, this group, can really help you advance that goal, whatever you have in your university, whatever you're trying to achieve: diversity, outreach to the community, outreach within other departments, success of your students. And we really saw some real creative things during COVID. So I think really we'll have a lot of examples today of department chairs who use it effectively. But we have with us today as well, we have Siwa Q, who's the president of, was a past president of ECEDHA, and he's the chair of the ECE department at University of Central Florida, our Zeta Chi chapter. I know, Siwa, do you want to say a few words about ECEDHA, or Afshak, or John Wick, who's here as the executive director of ECEDHA, who wants to level set a little bit about ECEDHA for us here, for those of us who are Eta Kappa Nu, maybe don't know as much about ECEDHA on the call today. Is that you, John?
John, you're muted.
Yes. The saying of 2021 and 2021, you are on mute.
Go ahead, Siwa.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Nancy, for the introduction. It's my pleasure to be here. I wanted to echo what Jim has said in terms of HKN. Here at the University of Central Florida, we have a number of IEEE organizations, and the general IEEE Student Society, IEEE Robotics, and of course HKN, which department support years, and the support mainly comes from two aspects. One is assign a faculty advisor for HKN. In this particular case, my associate chair, Dr. Wahid, is the faculty advisor, and she really helps the IEEE, and in particular HKN, to recruit not only student members, but more importantly, link the student chapter to our alumni as well as the local industry. So our membership in HKN, the membership has been growing, and they are the leaders in our department in terms of student activities. And they're very creative. One particular example I like to share is that, in open house and summer program for K-12, kids, we wanted to do a demonstration of a new energy, renewable energy, and why it is important, and how do we how the energy affects everybody's life. And one particular example we want to show is the reactive power. It's a concept that most engineers outside of electrical and computer engineering probably don't know, but we found that this might be enticing to kids to learn what the electrical engineering is about. So our HKN group and IEEE built a demo using carbonated water and pipes and pumps, because it's very visual. You can see, the flow through the pipelines. It's analogous to energy that flows through cables. And the carbonated water creates bubbles and occupies the pipes and the containers and so on. And that reflects the reactive power that is being bounced back and forth, within the electrical power systems. And they do many other things. Jim has, excellent coverage in terms of the variety of activities. And I want to echo in particular the leadership building activities. So we get them engaged in the Leadership Institute here at UCF, and they are taking charge of our IEEE Society student chapter. And of course, HKN consists of some of our best students in the programs of electrical and computer engineering. So we're very excited about HKN. Now, relationship with ECEDHA and HKN has been also strong. Each time that ECEDHA conference comes to Orlando, I try to get HKN members engaged, and they're the ones that run around and see and learn what's going on at our fantastic annual conference that John, graciously hosts each and every year. So I'm going to turn the floor to John so he can, talk more about ECEDHA and HKN. John? Sure.
Thanks, Ziwa. And thank you, Nancy, and the entire HKN board. I see many of the board members here. As Ziwa indicated, we've had this long productive history with HKN, which goes back almost 20 years. And we were really honored about 20 years ago when we were approached by a few board members and saying, is there a chance that we could help and facilitate HKN? So before IEEE, there was a ECEDHA, and ECEDHA managed HKN, and it was such a strong relationship at that point that we were able to really kind of pivot and I think reestablish HCAN as this vital organization. But our focus is really on curriculum and research and all the labs, and we've looking across the engineering education spectrum, we found that the best home and the best place for HCAN would have been with an IEEE because of all the infrastructure with the student chapters and activities with an IEEE. And so we did this transition about 10 years ago, but we've throughout the whole time with Nancy's leadership, we've been able to keep this partnership alive, and you're being modest, in saying, you get your chapters involved when we come to Florida. I mean, we find that the relationship with HKN is as important as any organization out there. And again, I think it's this way of having this communication from, the student organization to the academics. And I know sometimes, being a student, it's hard to have that communication go upstream, but HKN is a great organization, to affect change and hopefully, strengthen, the entire academic engineering enterprise. And so we value the relationship with your organization greatly and really look forward to new opportunities. I think, today is, one of the things that we talked about last year, because we would have been together this March in San Diego. We have a long history of hosting the HCAN chapter awards at the ECEDHA annual conference. And, it's an opportunity for HCAN to recognize those outstanding chapters. And really, it's one of the highlights of our annual conference to have HCAN do that. And so, we really appreciate the continued support and participation in our annual conference. But those of you who are students who are on the call, I mean, I would encourage you, because I've got this long lens with HCAN. I would encourage you to, be active in the organization. I think, the programs and initiatives that were shared earlier are vital, to keeping not only the HCAN organization current and lively, but it's critical, for the future of, for the future classes that come down the pike, and having them, feel as though there's this support system for the leading engineers. And you are, by virtue of the qualifications, you are the leading engineers within our discipline. So, we congratulate you. We honor the relationship you have with the ECEDHA organization, and look forward to building upon that in the future.
Well, John, thank you, and Ziwan, thank you so much. I mean, ECEDHA, I think, is one of our most important relationships, and I really personally benefited. You've been great to me, to our organization, and I'm so grateful to ECEDHA for all that you do. I mean, it is a highlight of the year when we get to, your conference is amazing, right? And we love being there. We do our Outstanding Chapter Awards, and we even give out our Best Outstanding Student Award. And I think it's great for the department chairs to kind of learn about what's happening in the respective chapters, and hopefully to inspire others. And that's what we're hoping to do a little bit today, to hopefully inspire other department chairs and other universities, if they're not currently engaging their EDHCAP chapter at this high level, to think of it not just as another student organization, as we're talking about, but really as that extension of their faculty, as extension of the program, as a way to accomplish the many things. I mean, the pressure is big, right? There's a lot of things you have to do. It's not easy to be a department chair. Each one of your seats are, it's complicated. And, but you do have this wonderful resource available to you called EDHCAP. And if you have a chapter and you're using it, great. We'd love to hear about it. If you have a chapter and you haven't engaged it, we want to help you do that. And if you don't have a chapter and you like to start one, we can talk about how to do that later. Because again, this is a partnership, like it is with ECEDHA. It's one of our most valued ones too, John. You, Megan, Claire, the whole ECEDHA team is amazing. John's modest. His dad was at EDHCAP and just loved this organization. Gave so much to make sure that it continued and flourished. And John, you continue that tradition, and we're so grateful to you for it. I can always count on ECEDHA, and I love helping each other. I think it is an important partnership. So we do, so we do the award ceremony, which has been great, John. But we also, a couple of years ago, we were talking, and I was talking to some of the, we have a lot of joint. I looked at your board, I look at my board. I think all but 2 of your board members have EDHCAP chapters. Just looking at it, looking at your website, and your website says the future is what we do. And EDHCAP is really about developing these future engineers. So the synergy is great. So when you look at the awards program and how we've been engaged in the conference, the Pathways to Industry is something we started together. Do you want to comment on that program, particularly how we've been able to, because you have a great relationship with industry, and at the meeting, you've developed that, the show floor and the maker space, and we've been able to bring the students in. So maybe, again, it's been really, I think it's been wonderful for each. John, do you want to say something about that?
Sure.
Especially if we continue it this year virtually. We can't wait to be with you next year when you're live again.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's really, really unfortunate that we've not been able to get together for the last 2 years. You know, the conference would have been held actually the week after next in San Diego. But this time next year, I invite all of you to participate with us in New Orleans. We are actively planning, you know, that program right now. So I think that, you know, hopefully we'll see an opportunity in the near future for us to kind of reunite. You know, a big part of I think engineering education is obviously looking at the next generation of engineers, and what are the requirements for the next generation of engineers is constantly changing based upon, you know, shifts in technology, shifts in industry and trends. And quite honestly, it's very important for not only academia, but also student organizations like HCAN to stay as current as possible in terms of what is happening in industry and what those future requirements are going to look like, you know, as we you know, evolve different industries and different technologies. And you know, about a dozen years ago, you know, we started talking with some of our corporate relations outside of ECEDHA about, you know, coming and being part of the ECEDHA organization in a formal way. And, you know, we've been blessed over this, you know, last 12 years or so of having some of the leading technology providers for engineering education, you know, join us and you know, share their visions as to, you know, what are the future trends in engineering and how our institutions need to prepare those future engineers for workplace, and that, you know, that's ever changing. I mean, you know, I look, you know, the last couple of years in terms of, you know, the difference of focus, you know, and not only in technology, but also, you know, the whole area of you know, social justice around engineering education and the future workforce. You know, it's critical. So, you know, we've got a big focus now ourselves on looking at diversity, inclusion, and equity within engineering education. And so, you know, things are ever evolving, ever changing, and quite honestly, we look to the companies and we look to the leadership of ECEDHA to, you know, drive, you know, what is the future of engineering education and how can we really play our role as, you know, as an organization that can, you know, contribute towards the success of you know, of these new technologies and new programs. So, you know, in short, Nancy, I mean, you know, I think us, you know, these two organizations, which are vitally important to engineering education, ECEDHA and HKN, us staying close and helping each other is really critical, you know, and I really applaud all the work that IEEE and your organization at HCAN has done, you know, to keep that relationship alive. And you know, if there's anything that I know that the ECEDHA and our leadership can do to continue that, we'll step up and do that.
And John, you always have. So thank you. Thanks, Ron. I know Ashcock's been on here. So again, we talk about, you know, we have a few more minutes left in this panel, but when we think about the challenges of today, and we look at this year, 2021, and even going to 2022, we talk about those trends and how those trends in engineering education, which you have your finger on the pulse of. What other advice do you have for the department chairs here with their HKN chapters or others? Where do you see, and it can be to anyone out there, any of our panelists, as where those opportunities are, maybe where we could be doing more, where are the places that we could be even growing beyond what we've currently done to serve our populations better. You know, again, both having that similar commitment to engineering education and through our universities.
So I can answer that.
Right, Jim.
Go ahead.
Woo.
All right. So, one of the first things to think about is, what COVID has done for the generalization of, mankind. One thing that we've often found, and this is especially useful in engineering, is that sitting around and doing the spitballing on the whiteboard, as we often did, is a little bit more difficult. And not being in person and just bouncing ideas off of somebody is also suffered. But also because we've been separated from each other, we're not giving, and I mean more of our time than, money too, what the heck, but of our time than we used to. Things like the student activities, helping, mentoring, it is more difficult, and every instructor out there is going to believe me when I say teaching has been really difficult in the last year. And you can imagine learning has been difficult in the last year, and for the student interaction has been difficult in the last year. I see there's a light at the end of the tunnel, right? And, for example, our university has just announced that everything's going to be live in the fall. Now is the time to start preparing for that. If an Eta Kappa Nu chapter does tutoring, now is the time to start building that up. How are they going to do it? What's the space? What are the courses, etc. So there's some planning that they could do in advance. The other is that you need people to participate. And so making sure that you have students recognized for their scholarship by having inductions, or for some of you out there who don't even have an Eta Kappa Nu chapter yet, finding out how to establish one. Nancy's the one to do that. So Nancy, if you can make sure to type in the chat your email so they can contact you about this. That is one of the ways to do it, because it does take a core of a certain number of students to be able to do this. One thing I may not have mentioned too is that Eta Kappa Nu, and becoming a member of Eta Kappa Nu has a small fee associated with it. Right now, Nancy, can you remind me, is it 70, I believe?
For students, it's 60. And
Okay.
that $60 includes a 1-year IEEE student membership. But the Eta Kappa Nu piece of it, Eta Kappa Nu is a lifetime designation, which is why we call some people alumni. So once you're inducted Eta Kappa Nu, and Ziwa, Jim, Ashka, you're all Eta Kappa Nu. So once you're Eta Kappa Nu, you're Eta Kappa Nu forever. It's more of a designation because you've earned it than it is a membership. When a student joins, they get that 1 year. There it goes, right on your card. Thanks, Jim. It's yours forever. IEEE is a 1-year student membership. And again, faculty can be inducted. So if you have faculty members that are Eta Kappa Nu, great. If you would like to bring more faculty members into the Eta Kappa Nu program, you can induct your faculty by virtue of the fact they're on faculty at your university. They do have to be IEEE members, and there is, again, a one-time fee for faculty or professionals of $150. But remember, that's once in your lifetime. So it's not a recurring annual membership like other membership type organizations. So we really are an honor society, which is why we're different than, like we talked about, different than other student organizations. So thanks, Jim. Thanks for letting me.
And there's a wonderful opportunity, Nancy alluded to that too, that if members of your advisory board you want to recognize, invite them to be a member of the a professional member of Eta Kappa Nu. They could be inducted through your local chapters. All right.
And we've had many do that, right? We've even had members of Congress inducted into our Eta Kappa Nu chapters. So hopefully we can get more engineers in Congress and in our state legislatures and things like that. So if you have engineers, again, all these things kind of align, right? We want to bring all these people together to better serve our communities, our shared communities in engineering education. So lots of ways to employ your chapters and do things. So in the few minutes we have left of this session, I know we're going to talk a lot more later about maybe somehow chapters have handled the challenges of COVID and what they've done this year, because it's nice to see that we still are inducting. We went virtual, we changed our ceremonies to virtual. See why you mentioned that. It's different, but the nice thing has been that sometimes alumni and others, more people can come to a virtual ceremony than maybe can come on, in person. So, when you face those challenges, what have you seen that you've really enjoyed watching your EDHA Nu Ashfaq or Ziwa? What else have you really enjoyed seeing your EDHA Nu students and chapters? Maybe you've got an anecdote you'd like to share in the few minutes we have left of this opening session.
Yeah, Nancy, I think you're right on the point. Just as a follow-up to what Jim has said, this has been a very challenging year for both students and the faculty members. But there are a few things I think we have learned, and it turns out to work very well. For example, Zoom meeting, we have been using more than ever. And it turns out, as Nancy pointed out, the participation has been higher because the threshold of attending the meeting is much lower. If people can come and go as needed to, and there is no travel involved here. So what I found is that even though it's less intimate and less interactive than in-person induction or meetings, we have activities ongoing, and there are more participation, especially first-timers, which I find very encouraging. And the other thing that I think both John and Jim mentioned is the tutoring aspect of it. And this is something that also worked quite well. Students have been tutors for each other, and EDHA Nu has been, at least on my campus, very active in terms of tutoring. And faculty's office hours and tutoring sessions are being held through Zoom. And that's actually more engaging. What some of the surveys we found was that students feel less intimidated than going to faculty offices because that setting is not as friendly as talking virtually. So I want to also mention that ECEDHA, through the leadership of the board and John, has been pursuing a virtual laboratory. That's an initiative that I think it would have a long-term impact because even after COVID, we're still facing budget pressures. All universities have space problems. We don't have enough, lab space for all the students to engage in a variety of activities. So we wanted to keep some of the good things that we have tried and learned during this pandemic. If anything positive come out of it, it should be that the good things that we learned need to be continued. So I think many of our students, especially the EDHA Nu members, as future engineers and entrepreneurs, can really play a critical role to think of new tools and means for students and faculty to communicate better. One of the challenges I would say is that in terms of assessment, we don't have anything close to being satisfactory, let alone to be excellent. Certain programs that we are using have privacy concerns, and they don't work as good as in this modern day of information age and automation. We should have better tools, to administrate exams and design projects and all of that. So I would like to encourage students to interact more, and through that process, perhaps some of you would be the next billionaire that creates platforms that everybody love for education and social interactions. So again, thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks, you. I think that's true. I think the things that made us very creative, COVID created a very, in a crisis, we became very creative. And I think we can continue many of those very creative solutions and manage those along with our traditional solutions. And I really encourage all that creativity. We're going to hear a lot more about that today. We've got 2 more panels coming up for you. One